So there were two terrible mass shootings this weekend, and it goes without saying that my heart and prayers go out to all the victims and the family of the victims. It's truly a tragedy. The sad thing is that stuff like this is inevitable. We could work to minimize it. We could do many things. We could have policy discussions, but in the truth, there will always be psychopaths, and they'll always hurt people, and they'll come from all sides of the political spectrum and for all sorts of reasons, and it's really a tragedy. It's so sad that people have to live through this and that we as a civilized culture have to live through it, but I don't see any way that we could eliminate this totally. All we could do is work to minimize and to help make sure that these types of things occur less and less as the future goes on. There's a couple things I wanted to talk about with this. The first is that I always say that I think that it's a shame that everyone wants to have a gut feeling, and like their first reaction seems to be, oh, I hope this person's on my political opponent's side, or I hope they're not on my political side. And that's the wrong reaction to have. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Socialist, Green Party, Conservative, Constitutionalist, it doesn't matter. If you don't advocate political violence, then this isn't representative of you, period. End of story. And so just because someone encourages violence that is on the right and is some not, or someone's a socialist and on the left and it's not, that doesn't mean we should label everyone in those groups or everyone who has beliefs that also were shared by this person as somehow negative. That's just not the way we should look at it. And remember, it doesn't matter who your politician or your political group is. Jill Stein, Ron Paul, Rand Paul, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Jeb Bush, etc., Obama, any of the Bushes. There's going to be extremists that support all of those people and might act out of the beliefs that they have, but that doesn't mean that all the other followers of those politicians or political groups should be lumped in with that person, unless they're specifically advocating for violence or they're specifically refusing to condemn it or something like that. Now, one of the things I wanted to focus on is I think it's a shame that once we started to see the El Paso shooter, which it does seem like was a white supremacist, came out, then predictably a lot of people tried to use this politically, including media people and Democrats such as Elizabeth Warren or Cory Booker or Kamala Harris. Kamala, by the way, who fundraised off these efforts, off the shootings, which is disgusting. But they tried to blame Trump or Fox News in the case of Elizabeth Warren. And that's always going to be a mistake, because when you do something like that, you better have a darn good reason. Else, if someone who supports you then goes out and does something heinous, you've just given the justification for people saying, okay, Elizabeth Warren, you blame Trump and Fox News for the El Paso shooter, but what about the Dayton shooter that was a follower of yours and used the rhetoric that you share? And that's exactly what we see happen. It's a tragedy and it's ironic, but we actually see almost in real time, almost 24 hours later, the same people that were condemning because this was a right-wing terror attack in El Paso. Now it turns out that it appears as if the Dayton shooter may have been someone who held left-wing viewpoints, including his social media said that he supported Antifa. He called the recent terrorist at the ICE facility who was shot and killed from Antifa a martyr. He supported Elizabeth Warren. He claims that he's a socialist. And so all of these people that then said, Trump's responsible for the right-wing shooter, Fox News is responsible, well then I guess Elizabeth Warren and MSNBC and CNN and the New York Times are responsible for the Dayton shooter. Of course, I don't believe that. I think it's ridiculous, but that's the game that they play. And remember, as I talk about all the time, the mainstream media and all of our cultural institutions of power are dominated by the establishment left. And so you heard immediately all the entertainment industry, people in academia, people in the mainstream media, Silicon Valley, all blaming Trump, not all, but many of them blaming Trump or saying that anyone concerned with illegal immigration is somehow responsible for this. And that's just not true. We should resist calls. Just like with the Dayton shooter, if the Dayton shooter is a socialist, we shouldn't say, this proves we can't have socialism. Now, I don't want socialism for other reasons, but by no means are my friends that are socialists endorsing this psychopath murder. The same's true of me. Because I have a problem with illegal immigration doesn't mean that all of a sudden I've endorsed what this psychopath in El Paso did. I didn't. And in fact, I talked often about, to me, skin color is irrelevant. I don't care. I'm not the type of person that's worried that people that share my skin color won't be the majority in 30, 40 years. I don't care about that at all. I'm more concerned that people that think like me or share my ideals continue to exist. The skin color is irrelevant to me. So the idea of illegal immigration, to me, it's not, I'm worried that people of a certain skin color are coming in. Yes, there are white supremacists, and yes, we should call them out. They are a terrible thing, just like all identitarian politics are terrible. But this is being blown out of proportion, and it's being used to attack people that have a problem with illegal immigration or people like Trump, when I don't feel that's justified whatsoever. Now, if you are the type of person that wants to justify that, again, remember, we saw that, to me, there is a difference, and I admit to being biased. that I do think that you see consistently right-wing people, Republicans, people on Fox News, etc., that are being demonized. They seem to constantly call out white supremacy. None of them seem to defend these groups or anything about them, including Trump, who, although the media maligned him and said after Charlottesville he defended white supremacists, he did not. He specifically called them out in all 3 of his speeches he gave afterwards about Charlottesville. But counter to that, we see that many Democrats, establishment Democrats, actually praised Antifa or downplayed them and said that they were anti-fascist and they were good. Now we have 2 incidents. We had, even after the domestic terrorist attack attacked an ICE facility, repeating rhetoric that was used by people like Ocasio-Cortez that were saying that these ICE facilities were concentration camps and the people running them were Nazis. Well, someone went there with weapons and tried to kill people and was killed himself. Yet most of the media didn't condemn this. You had a few people like Brian Stelter that gave a little lip service, but basically this was just pushed under the rug. I didn't see any of the Democratic candidates for president condemn this. And now just a few weeks later, we have someone who said they had sympathy for that terrorist and someone who sympathizes with Antifa now murdering people. So what's the story? Why is it that they're allowed to focus and say, oh, Trump needs to condemn, Trump's terrible, it's Trump's fault? But the actual rhetoric they used about concentration camp has now been used in 2 incidents where people have been murdered, and I haven't seen anyone call them out. I haven't seen people saying, okay, are you still going to call these concentration camps? I haven't seen people say, hey, are you going to condemn this? Omar, AOC, they were asked multiple times, do you condemn the ICE terror or the terrorists on the ICE facility? They didn't say anything. Yet these are the same people that are the most vocal trying to attach Trump to something that he has no connection to. If Trump was saying something such as, we need to use violence or against these illegal immigrants, then I could see that. But he hasn't said that. He just says we have to have rule of law. We have to protect our borders. That's not an endorsement of violence whatsoever. But the people that were defending Antifa, knowing that they use violent methods, that's part and parcel of who they are. Where are they? They're the ones that are out there now saying, oh, this is Trump's fault, but they won't take any reaction for themselves. And again, this has happened over and over again. Remember, when a Bernie supporter shot Steve Scalise and a bunch of Republican congressmen, all the Democrats said, you can't blame our rhetoric. That's terrible. We just condemn all violence. But then as soon as Charlottesville happened, they said, it's just right-wing violence. It's just right-wing terror. You can't have it both ways. I don't blame either side for this. I don't blame Pelosi or the Democrats or the people running for Congress for what this insane person did in Dayton. I don't blame Trump or the Republicans or Fox News for what this insane person did in El Paso. But if you're one of the people, and again, I admit to being biased because I'm a Republican, but you see this come over and over again for all these cultural institutions of power that are saying it's Trump's fault, it's Trump's fault, it's Trump's fault. When someone on the right does something, then they should get the equal backlash when someone on the left does something. Or my preference, which would just be, stop using these as political weapons. It's a tragedy. It's a terrible thing. Yes, we could talk about mental health. If you even want to have conversations about gun control, I'm against most of it, but those are at least policy prescriptions we can have. But to just want to blame your political opponent anytime someone that's perceived as on their side does something heinous, but then say, when someone on my side does something, I have nothing to do with it. That's ridiculous and hypocritical. And until we stop doing stuff like that, these terrible events are going to continue to be sensationalized, and it'll actually increase the chances of them happening. So please, if you like this video, please like and follow my channel. You can follow me on Nor Robert at Twitter, and have a good one.